Wisconsin is known for its lakes and forests, but hidden across the state are ancient mysteries that continue to puzzle researchers and visitors alike. From strange rock carvings at Roche-A-Cri State Park to the towering formations of Bluff and the ancient history surrounding Big Manitou Falls, these sites hold clues to forgotten cultures, lost traditions, and stories that time has never fully revealed. Roche-A-Cri State Park. If you ever travel through the quiet countryside of central Wisconsin, you might come across a place that looks peaceful at first glance. There are forests, sandstone cliffs, walking trails, and the sounds of birds moving through the trees. Nothing about it immediately suggests mystery, yet hidden on the face of an ancient rock formation is one of Wisconsin's oldest puzzles, a mystery that has survived for hundreds and perhaps even thousands of years. This is Roche-A-Cri State Park. The name comes from early French explorers who called the towering sandstone bluff Roche-A-Cri, meaning rock of cries, or rock that speaks. It is an unusual name, and when you stand beneath the massive cliff, you can understand why. The bluff rises dramatically above the surrounding landscape, dominating the area as if it has been watching over the land for ages. But the real mystery is not the rock itself, it is the strange markings left on its surface. Long before roads, towns, or state parks existed, people came to this place and carved symbols into the sandstone. They also painted images onto the rock face using natural pigments. These ancient markings remain visible today, protected behind a fence and carefully preserved. Nobody knows exactly what every symbol means, and that uncertainty has turned Roche-A-Cri into one of Wisconsin's most fascinating ancient mysteries. The story begins centuries before Europeans arrived in North America. Native peoples lived throughout Wisconsin for thousands of years. They hunted, farmed, traded, and built communities across the region. The sandstone bluff at Roche-A-Cri stood as a landmark that could be seen from great distances. Because of its height and visibility, many researchers believe it served as an important gathering place. Imagine approaching the bluff hundreds of years ago. The forests would have stretched endlessly in every direction. There would have been no highways, no buildings, and no signs of modern life. Then, rising above the trees, you would see the massive sandstone formation standing against the sky. It would have been impossible to miss. For travelers moving through the area, the bluff may have served as a natural marker. For spiritual leaders, it may have held sacred meaning. For artists and storytellers, it may have been a place to leave messages for future generations. The problem is that nobody knows for certain. That uncertainty is what makes the site so interesting. The carvings and paintings found on the bluff include human figures, animal shapes, handprints, birds, and symbols that remain difficult to identify. Some appear simple, others are much more complex. Over time, weather has faded many of the images, making them even harder to understand. Researchers have spent years studying them. Some believe the images were connected to spiritual ceremonies. Others think they may have marked important events, journeys, or tribal territories. A few suggest they could have served as a form of communication between groups traveling through the region. The truth is that we simply do not know. One of the biggest challenges is that many ancient cultures did not leave written records in the way modern societies do. Their stories were passed down through spoken traditions. While those traditions remain important today, connecting specific stories to specific rock carvings from centuries ago can be difficult. As a result, the symbols continue to keep their secrets. Many visitors find themselves staring at the rock face for long periods, trying to understand what they are seeing. Some shapes seem obvious, others appear mysterious and almost dreamlike. A bird figure might represent a real animal, or it might represent a spirit. A human figure might depict a person, or it might represent something symbolic. The possibilities are endless. Adding to the mystery is the age of the site itself. Experts believe some of the carvings and paintings may be several hundred years old. Others could potentially be much older. Since sandstone gradually erodes, determining exact dates is not always easy. Every passing century changes the surface slightly. Wind removes tiny grains of rock. Rain slowly reshapes the cliff. Winter freezes and cracks the sandstone. Despite all of this, the ancient markings remain. That alone is remarkable. Think about how many generations have looked at these symbols. The people who created them are gone. The communities they belonged to changed over time. Empires rose and fell across the world. Entire nations were created. Yet these mysterious figures still watch from the side of the bluff. Another mystery involves why this specific location was chosen. Wisconsin contains many cliffs and rock formations. Why did ancient artists select Roche-A-Cri? One reason may be visibility. The bluff stands prominently above the surrounding land. Anyone passing through the area would likely notice it. Messages placed here could be seen by many travelers. Another possibility involves spiritual beliefs. High places often hold special meaning in cultures around the world. Mountains, cliffs, and elevated locations are frequently associated with ceremonies, visions, and connections to the spiritual world. Perhaps Roche-A-Cri served a similar purpose. If that is true, the carvings may have been more than simple artwork. They may have been part of something much larger. Some visitors report feeling a strange sense of history when standing near the bluff. Of course, there is nothing supernatural about that feeling. When you stand before something that has survived for centuries, it naturally creates a powerful impression. You begin to think about the people who stood there before you. Who were they? What were they trying to say? Did they believe future generations would see their work? Or were the symbols intended only for people of their own time? Those questions remain unanswered. Over the years, the site has attracted archaeologists, historians, photographers, and mystery enthusiasts. Each group arrives hoping to understand a little more about the ancient markings. Some leave with theories, others leave with more questions than answers. That is often the nature of real mysteries. The deeper you investigate, the more complicated things become. Many people expect mysteries to end with a clear answer. Roche-A-Cri does not provide that. Instead, it offers clues, fragments, pieces of a story that may never be completely reconstructed. And perhaps that is what makes it special. Not every mystery needs to be solved. Sometimes the mystery itself is what keeps a place alive. The surrounding landscape also adds to the experience. The forests around the bluff create a sense of isolation, especially during quiet mornings. In autumn, colorful leaves cover the hillsides. During winter, snow transforms the park into a peaceful scene. Each season gives the ancient site a different atmosphere. It is easy to imagine why people were drawn here long ago. The location feels important, not because someone tells you it is important, because the landscape itself suggests it. Today, Roche-A-Cri State Park is carefully managed and protected. Visitors can climb a stairway to the top of the bluff and enjoy wide views of the surrounding countryside. The park includes hiking trails, picnic areas, and educational displays that explain the site's history. The ancient carvings are protected behind barriers to prevent damage. This protection is necessary because even small amounts of human contact can gradually destroy fragile markings that have survived for centuries. Fortunately, preservation efforts have helped ensure that future generations will still be able to see them. The current condition of the site is generally very good. The park is well maintained and remains accessible to visitors throughout much of the year. Trails are clearly marked, the viewing areas are organized, and the surrounding environment remains beautiful. The bluff itself continues to dominate the landscape just as it did hundreds of years ago. However, there are challenges as well. Natural erosion never stops. Weather continues to wear away the sandstone little by little. Some ancient images have faded significantly compared to how they once appeared. Researchers and conservation teams must constantly balance public access with long-term preservation. That challenge will likely continue for many years. If too many people visit without proper protections, damage could occur. If access becomes too limited, fewer people may learn about the site's history. Finding the right balance is not easy. Personally, I think Roche-A-Cri State Park is one of the most interesting ancient mystery sites in Wisconsin. Not because it contains dramatic treasure stories or legends of lost civilizations, but because it feels real. The mystery comes directly from the people who once lived there. Someone stood before that sandstone cliff centuries ago and decided to leave a message. Today we can still see that message, but we cannot fully understand it. There is something powerful about that. In a world where information is available instantly, Roche-A-Cri reminds us that some parts of the past remain beyond our reach. We can study the symbols, compare theories, and search for answers, but the complete story may never be known. And maybe that is exactly why visitors continue to come. They are not just looking at ancient rock art. They are standing face to face with a conversation from another time. A conversation that began centuries ago and is still waiting for someone to fully understand it. Until that day comes, the sandstone bluff of Roche-A-Cri will continue to guard its secrets, watching quietly over the Wisconsin landscape, just as it has done for generations. Mill Bluff State Park. There are some places that become mysterious because of legends. Others become mysterious because strange events happened there. But sometimes a place becomes a mystery simply because nature created something so unusual that people struggle to understand it. That is exactly what happened at Mill Bluff State Park in Wisconsin. At first glance, it looks like a beautiful natural area filled with towering sandstone formations rising above forests and open land. Visitors come to hike, take photographs, and enjoy the scenery. Yet when you stand beneath the giant rock formations and look upward, it is hard not to ask a simple question. How did these strange bluffs get here? Why do they rise so dramatically above the surrounding landscape, while the nearby land remains relatively flat? And why have people been drawn to this place for thousands of years? These questions have helped turn Mill Bluff State Park into one of Wisconsin's most intriguing ancient mysteries. The story begins long before any human being ever saw the area. Thousands of years ago, enormous glaciers covered much of Wisconsin. Massive sheets of ice slowly moved across the landscape, reshaping everything in their path. Entire valleys were carved, hills disappeared, rivers changed direction. Yet somehow, Mill Bluff and several nearby sandstone formations survived. That alone is remarkable. The towering bluffs appear almost like giant stone islands rising from a sea of land. When viewed from a distance, they seem completely out of place. Early travelers crossing the region often describe them as landmarks that could be seen from miles away. Imagine walking through ancient Wisconsin. There are no roads, no signs, and no modern maps. Then suddenly, these giant sandstone towers appear on the horizon. You would probably head toward them. Many ancient people likely did exactly that. Archaeologists believe humans have been visiting this region for thousands of years. Stone tools and evidence of ancient activity have been discovered throughout the surrounding area. While researchers continue studying the region, one thing seems clear. People noticed these bluffs, and they kept coming back. That raises an interesting mystery. What attracted them? Was it simply the dramatic appearance of the rock formations? Or was there something more? Many ancient cultures around the world considered unusual natural features to be special places. Mountains, caves, cliffs, and isolated rock formations often became locations for ceremonies, gatherings, and storytelling. Mill Bluff certainly would have stood out. The tallest formations rise high above the surrounding landscape, creating views that stretch for miles. From the top, ancient people could watch movement across a large area. They could see approaching weather. They could observe animals traveling through the region. The location offered practical advantages, but practical reasons may not explain everything. The bluffs possess a certain atmosphere that is difficult to describe. Even today, visitors often mention how different the area feels compared to the surrounding countryside. The sandstone towers create dramatic shadows. The shapes seem almost unnatural despite being completely natural formations. Some look like giant castles. Others resemble towers built by human hands. When sunlight strikes the sandstone during sunrise or sunset, the formations can appear almost magical. It is easy to understand why ancient people may have attached stories and meanings to them. Unfortunately, much of that knowledge has been lost. Like many ancient sites across North America, written records do not exist from the earliest periods of human activity. Stories were passed from generation to generation through spoken traditions. Over time, some details survived, others disappeared. As a result, modern researchers are left with clues but few definite answers. One of the most interesting mysteries involves how people used the area thousands of years ago. Archaeological discoveries suggest human activity in the region stretches far back into the past. Hunters likely traveled through the area following game animals. Small groups may have camped nearby. Families may have gathered seasonally. But exactly how important was Mill Bluff? Was it merely a convenient landmark? Or was it considered a special place? Nobody knows for certain. The mystery becomes even more interesting when you examine the surrounding landscape. The bluffs are part of an area known for unusual geological features. Ancient lakes, glaciers, rivers, and changing climates all helped shape the land over countless years. To early people, these formations may have seemed almost supernatural. Think about it. Without modern geology, How would you explain giant stone towers rising from the earth? Many cultures created stories to explain unusual natural landmarks. Some stories involved spirits, others involved legendary beings or ancient events. While we cannot know exactly what stories were told at Mill Bluff thousands of years ago, it seems likely that such a remarkable place inspired imagination. Every generation probably looked at the formations and wondered about their origin. In a way, that curiosity continues today. Scientists now understand much more about glaciers and erosion than previous generations. Yet even with modern knowledge, standing beneath the sandstone towers still creates a sense of wonder. The formations feel ancient, because they are. Some of the sandstone itself formed hundreds of millions of years ago. Long before humans existed, long before dinosaurs appeared, layers of sand were slowly transformed into rock. That means the cliffs preserve a history almost impossible for the human mind to fully imagine. When you touch the stone, you are touching something older than nearly every living thing on Earth. Perhaps that contributes to the site's mysterious reputation. People naturally feel connected to places that reveal deep history. Mill Bluff is one of those places. Another mystery involves the way ancient people moved through the area. Researchers believe Wisconsin contained numerous travel routes used by native peoples for centuries. Rivers, valleys, and natural landmarks helped guide movement across the landscape. Mill Bluff would have been impossible to miss. Its visibility likely made it an important reference point. Travelers could use the towering formations to orient themselves. Hunters could use them as observation points. Groups meeting from different regions could use them as a recognizable gathering location. Yet there is no way to know exactly how often such gatherings occurred. That missing information keeps the mystery alive. Sometimes the most interesting mysteries are not about hidden treasure or lost civilizations. Sometimes they are about ordinary people whose stories have disappeared. Who climbed these bluffs 1,000 years ago? What did they see? What conversations took place at the top? What hopes, fears, and dreams did they carry? The rocks remain. The people are gone. Their stories exist only as fragments. That reality creates a mystery more powerful than many legends. As European settlers eventually entered Wisconsin, they also noticed the strange formations. The bluffs continued serving as landmarks for travelers exploring the region. Even in modern times, the unusual landscape attracts attention. Photographers come to capture the views. Hikers come to explore the trails. Geologists come to study the ancient rock layers. And mystery enthusiasts come looking for answers. Each visitor leaves with a slightly different impression. Some focus on the science. Others focus on the history. Many simply appreciate the beauty. The interesting thing is that all of these perspectives can exist together. Science explains how the formations developed. History explains how people interacted with them. But neither fully removes the sense of mystery. The bluffs still feel special. That feeling is difficult to measure, but it is very real. Today, Mill Bluff State Park remains one of Wisconsin's most beautiful natural areas. Visitors can hike trails leading through the sandstone formations and climb to viewpoints overlooking the surrounding countryside. The trails are generally well maintained and allow people to experience the landscape up close. The current condition of the park is quite good. Conservation efforts have helped preserve both the natural environment and the geological features. The forests remain healthy, wildlife is present, and the sandstone formations continue to dominate the landscape just as they have for centuries. The hiking trails are accessible and popular with visitors throughout much of the year. During autumn, colorful leaves create spectacular views. In spring and summer, the area becomes green and vibrant. Winter transforms the landscape into a quiet and peaceful scene covered with snow. However, there are also challenges. Natural erosion continues to affect the sandstone formations. Wind, rain, freezing temperatures, and plant growth slowly wear away the rock. While this process is natural, it reminds us that even ancient formations change over time. Heavy visitor traffic can also create management challenges. Park officials must balance public access with preservation. Too much disturbance could damage sensitive areas, while too many restrictions could limit educational opportunities. Fortunately, current management efforts have generally succeeded in protecting the site. For most visitors, the experience remains both enjoyable and educational. Personally, I think Mill Bluff State Park represents one of the most fascinating kinds of mysteries. It is not mysterious because people claim strange creatures live there. It is not mysterious because of hidden treasure. Instead, it is mysterious because it connects several different worlds at once. It connects geology, history, archaeology, and human imagination. The towering sandstone formations remind us of the incredible forces that shaped the Earth long before humans arrived. The evidence of ancient human activity reminds us that generations of people stood in the same place and looked at the same cliffs. Most importantly, it reminds us how much of the past remains unknown. We know people visited the area, we know they recognized its importance, but we do not know every story they told. We do not know every reason they came. We do not know what thoughts crossed their minds as they stood on the bluffs looking across the Wisconsin landscape. That missing knowledge is where the mystery lives, and perhaps it always will. As long as the sandstone towers continue rising above the forests and fields, Mill Bluff will remain more than just a beautiful state park. It will remain a silent witness to thousands of years of human curiosity, a place where nature and history meet, and a place that continues to invite every visitor to ask the same timeless question. What happened here long ago? The rocks are still standing. The clues are still there. The answers, however, remain hidden somewhere in the deep past. Big Manitou Falls region. Deep in the forests of northern Wisconsin, there is a place where the sound of rushing water echoes through ancient rock formations. The trees seem endless, the air feels cooler, and the landscape looks much the same as it did long before modern roads and towns appeared. Hidden within this wilderness is one of the most impressive natural landmarks in the Midwest. This is the region surrounding Big Manitou Falls. Most people know it because of the waterfall itself. Water plunges dramatically over dark rock cliffs before continuing through a rugged river valley. It is a beautiful sight that attracts visitors from across the country. But for those interested in ancient mysteries, the waterfall is only part of the story. The real mystery begins thousands of years before the first tourists arrived. Long before Wisconsin existed as a state, native peoples lived throughout this region. They traveled its forests, hunted its animals, fished its rivers, and passed down stories about the land. Archaeological discoveries show that human activity in the area stretches back for thousands of years. Yet much of that ancient history remains hidden. Who were the first people to visit this region? Why did they choose to settle or travel through these remote forests? What stories did they tell about the powerful waterfall? And how much ancient history still remains buried beneath the ground? These questions continue to fascinate historians and archaeologists today. To understand the mystery, it helps to first understand the landscape. The region around Big Manitou Falls is dominated by rivers, cliffs, forests, and ancient rock formations. The Black River cuts through the landscape, creating dramatic scenery that would have been impossible for early people to ignore. Imagine living thousands of years ago. There are no maps, no highways, no cities. The wilderness stretches in every direction. Then you hear the roar of falling water. You follow the sound through the trees until suddenly the forest opens and a massive waterfall appears before you. The sight would have been unforgettable. For ancient people, places like this often became important landmarks. A powerful waterfall was not simply another feature of the landscape. It stood out. It demanded attention. Many cultures throughout the world viewed waterfalls, cliffs, caves, and unusual natural formations as special places connected to stories, ceremonies, or spiritual beliefs. It is very possible that the people who lived in this region felt the same way. Unfortunately, much of that knowledge has been lost over time. What remains are clues. Archaeologists have found evidence showing that native peoples occupied northern Wisconsin for thousands of years. Stone tools, campsites, and other artifacts reveal that people moved through the area long before written history. Yet these discoveries only tell part of the story. Artifacts can show where people lived. They cannot always tell us what people believed. They cannot explain every tradition, every ceremony, or every story passed down around ancient campfires. That missing information creates one of the region's greatest mysteries. The waterfall itself carries an interesting name. Manitou comes from native traditions and is often associated with powerful spiritual forces or beings. Different tribes interpreted the concept in different ways, but the term generally referred to something possessing spiritual power. That fact alone raises fascinating questions. Was the waterfall viewed as a sacred place? Did people gather here for ceremonies? Were stories connected to the roaring water passed from generation to generation? There is no complete record to answer these questions, but the possibility remains. When you stand near Big Manitou Falls today, it is easy to understand why ancient people may have considered it special. The sound alone is powerful. Even before you see the waterfall, you hear it. The roar echoes through the forest. The ground seems to vibrate slightly beneath your feet. Then the trees open and the water appears, crashing over the cliff and disappearing into the river below. It creates a feeling that is difficult to describe. Many visitors today experience a sense of awe. Ancient people likely felt something similar. Another mystery involves the age of human activity in the region. Northern Wisconsin contains evidence of people living there for thousands of years. Over countless generations, different groups traveled through the forests, followed seasonal resources, and established camps. But the exact details remain uncertain. Many ancient campsites have disappeared. Some were destroyed by natural processes. Others remain undiscovered beneath layers of soil. Every archaeological discovery answers some questions while creating new ones. A stone tool may reveal that people hunted nearby, but who made it? Where did they come from? What language did they speak? Those answers often remain unknown. The forests surrounding Big Manitou Falls may still contain secrets waiting to be discovered. That possibility keeps researchers interested in the area. The region also played an important role in travel and trade. Long before roads existed, rivers acted as natural highways. People moved through the landscape using waterways whenever possible. Rivers connected distant communities and allowed goods, ideas, and traditions to spread. The Black River likely served this purpose for centuries. Groups traveling through the area would have encountered the waterfall and surrounding landscape. Perhaps they stopped to rest. Perhaps they exchanged goods. Perhaps they shared stories. We cannot know for certain. But it seems unlikely that such a dramatic landmark went unnoticed. One of the most interesting aspects of the mystery is that it does not revolve around a single event. There is no lost treasure, no hidden city, no famous unsolved crime. Instead, the mystery centers on ordinary people whose lives have largely disappeared from history. Thousands of individuals may have stood beside the waterfall over countless generations. They watched the same water flow. They heard the same roar. They looked across the same forests. Yet we know very little about most of them. History often remembers kings, explorers, and famous leaders. Places like Big Manitou Falls remind us that countless other stories have been forgotten. Sometimes those forgotten stories are the most fascinating of all. The landscape itself contributes to the mystery. Northern Wisconsin remains heavily forested even today. In some areas, the wilderness feels remarkably untouched. Dense trees limit visibility, creating an atmosphere that feels ancient. Walking through these forests, it is easy to imagine how the area appeared centuries ago. Many visitors describe feeling disconnected from modern life. Cell phone signals may weaken. Road noise disappears. The sounds of nature take over. The experience helps people understand why ancient communities formed strong connections to the natural world. Nature was not something separate from daily life. It was daily life. Every river, cliff, and waterfall mattered. Every season brought changes. Every landmark carried meaning. That perspective may help explain why places like Big Manitou Falls became important. The mystery grows even deeper when considering how much evidence may have been lost. Thousands of years is an incredibly long period. Wood decays, buildings disappear, campfires leave only faint traces. Stories change as generations pass. Many clues that could explain the region's ancient history may simply no longer exist. As a result, archaeologists often work with incomplete information. They examine small fragments and attempt to reconstruct larger stories. Sometimes they succeed. Sometimes they discover only new mysteries. That process continues today. The region remains an important area for understanding Wisconsin's ancient past. Modern visitors often focus on the beauty of the waterfall, and understandably so. Big Manitou Falls is one of the tallest waterfalls in Wisconsin, and one of the most impressive natural attractions in the state. But beneath that beauty lies a much older story, a story that began thousands of years before the first camera photographed the falls. A story written not in books, but in landscapes, artifacts, and traditions. A story that remains incomplete. Today, the area is protected and managed as part of a larger natural preserve. Hiking trails allow visitors to explore the landscape safely while enjoying spectacular views of the waterfall and surrounding forest. The current condition of the region is generally very good. The forests remain healthy and continue supporting wildlife. The waterfall itself remains the centerpiece of the area and attracts large numbers of visitors every year. Trails are maintained, viewing platforms provide excellent access, and conservation efforts help protect the natural environment. However, there are challenges. Heavy visitor traffic can place pressure on sensitive areas. Erosion affects some trails. Severe weather occasionally damages infrastructure. Like many natural sites, managers must balance public access with long-term preservation. Climate changes and natural erosion also continue shaping the landscape. The waterfall itself slowly changes over time. The cliffs experience weathering, trees grow and die. The environment remains dynamic, just as it has for thousands of years. Fortunately, conservation efforts have helped preserve much of what makes the region special. Visitors today can still experience something very similar to what ancient people may have experienced centuries ago. That is becoming increasingly rare in the modern world. Personally, I think the mystery of Big Manitou Falls is powerful because it feels authentic. There are no dramatic claims about lost civilizations hidden beneath the forest. There are no unbelievable legends that require extraordinary explanations. Instead, the mystery comes from real history. People lived here, people traveled here, people undoubtedly told stories about this place. Yet much of that knowledge has disappeared. When I think about Big Manitou Falls, I do not just think about the waterfall. I think about the generations of people who stood beside it long before us. I think about the conversations that have been lost. I think about the traditions that survived and those that vanished. Most importantly, I think about how much of human history remains hidden from view. The waterfall continues to roar exactly as it did centuries ago. The forests continue to grow around it. Visitors continue to arrive and marvel at the scenery. But somewhere within that landscape are pieces of a much older story. A story that may never be fully recovered. And that, more than anything else, is what makes the Big Manitou Falls region one of Wisconsin's most fascinating ancient mysteries.